Hi, how you doing and welcome back to the video on the channel. What we have for today is our latest FPL draft video. We are going to be releasing a final deadline video on Friday with all our players locked into position, but this is my latest thoughts and a lot of players are pretty much there. The way we're going to reveal the team is normally we'd start with the goalkeepers and defence, but I'm actually going to show my players that I'm most certain about first, and then as we get later into the team, it's going to sort of go down to the players I'm less sure about in my lineup. If you are new to the channel, please do like and subscribe. The support has been awesome already this season. We are a small channel trying to grow, so if you can help us reach, 200 subscribers as soon as we can, that would be really appreciated. So let's take a look at the team. And as we said, we're going to start with the players we're most sure about. And for me, that is Haaland and Isak. Now, if you've been watching the videos throughout pre-season, we've had Haaland in and out of the team, and I think it's important to consider all options. You know, he's obviously a great player, but for me, he's so much money. It is still interesting to see how your team looks without him in, and can you recreate those points elsewhere. I think it is important to start with him at the start of the season, mainly because if he does score a lot of goals, you're not going to be getting left really far behind. Now, that is a safe way of playing, but I'm not sort of certain that he's going to be in my team for much longer than game week 2, but I do want him in for that Ipswich game, so I might as well start with him now. And then after that, I can maybe reassess, take him out and use the funds elsewhere, possibly get someone like Foden into midfield to cover for his points, maybe even a double up in Man City elsewhere. So I've also got Isak here. Now, these two players are definitely going to be in my team come Friday. Unless there is some major injury news, I don't really see a world where I don't have Haaland and Isak. Isak I can see easily being in contention for top goal scorer in the whole league this season, and at 8.5 million he could be the biggest bargain of the whole league. The next two players we're going to talk about is Saka and Gvardiol. Now, both of these are pretty much set in my team as well. I'd say Gvardiol is more set in my team than Saka, and the main reason for that is that we know how Saka normally plays for Arsenal, but he's not had a complete full pre-season. I do see him starting in the first game week. There is also a case for dropping Saka down to someone like Eze and then upgrading your striker, your third striker, to someone like Havertz and saving a bit of money there, and still having a way into the Arsenal attack. For me, Saka is so nailed on that I think I've definitely got to get him in, but I do have to be careful of not being too biased because I had him in all last season and he did so well. I have to be prepared to look at alternatives if it doesn't work out early on. So the next three players I've grouped in together, and that's because they're the three transfers I've made since the last draft. We did have Foden, Garnacho and João Pedro, and now we have Son, Andreas Pereira and Chris Wood. Now, I really like the fixtures for these players, and they are pretty much all going to be short-term players in my team. Son has Leicester and Everton in the first two games, and then I will probably at the moment be 90% moving away from Son after there when the fixtures turn a little bit, and other players like Cole Palmer, their fixtures become a lot better after that initial Man City game, and it'll be interesting to see how Cole Palmer does in the first two game weeks, whether it looks like he's going to be continuing that form. I know a lot of Palmer's points last season were because of penalties, but I do think there could be more penalties at the start of this season than ever before because referees have been told to clamp down on holding in the box and pulling shirts, which they always seem to be saying they're going to do. So it remains to be seen if they are going to do that. Andreas has Man United, Leicester, Ipswich, West Ham and Forest in the first six. Now, at 5.5 million, you are going to need budget players in your team. I do think he's a good player. He's on set pieces for Fulham, and with those fixtures, I think he could get off to a really good start. People tend to be talking about Fulham players like Smith Rowe and Robinson at left back, but Andreas seems to be going under the radar for me, and he's cheaper than Smith Rowe anyway, so I think he's going to be getting lots of good minutes in Fulham's team. Be getting lots of good minutes in my team as well. Up front, we've got Chris Wood. Now, I did have João Pedro in the previous team, as we said. At 5.5 million to 6 million, I do think it's worth the value. Forest have Bournemouth, Southampton, Wolves, Brighton and Fulham in the first six. I really like those fixtures, and I know he's not necessarily certain to start, but he did start towards the end of last season and he did score well. Got 14 league goals, which is pretty good for someone like Chris Wood, who's, as we say, not guaranteed to start. He's not someone who's going to score consistently throughout the season, but he can score in bunches, and I think one of those bunches could be in these first game weeks. So like we said, these players aren't, they're not certain to be in my team on Friday, but I'm pretty sure on them, but they're not going to be in there for too long. So next up we've got Anthony Gordon. Now he's a little bit behind the others just because he's not played regularly for Newcastle in pre-season. And what I want to do is make sure that I've got a lot of players in my starting 11 in the first game week who are going to start for their clubs. The last thing you want is getting in these players and finding out that they're on the bench. It'd be an absolute nightmare. For me, Anthony Gordon, even though he's not had a full pre-season, he's so important to Newcastle's success that he will start in game week 1. I'm pretty certain of it. And doubling up with Isak is a great way to really take advantage of that Newcastle attack. If everyone has Isak in, you're not going to be gaining rank on anyone else. But if you have a double Newcastle attack and you think they're going to do well, then you're going to get Isak's points plus a little bit extra, which will give you the edge over other FPL players. So rounding out the starting 11, I've got my rest of my defence and goalkeeper. So we have been toying with the idea of Pickford and Saliba, but I do actually save money by going with Raya and Mykolenko. I actually save $1 million in price, which has enabled me to get in not only Haaland, but also upgrade to someone like Chris Wood instead of a João Pedro. Now, do I need an Arsenal defender / keeper at all to start with? They've got Villa, Spurs, Man City in the first 5. Could I drop down and save $1 million elsewhere, which could help me with my team in the future? It remains to be seen. If I went to someone like even a Pickford or a Henderson instead of David Raya, I could upgrade Son to Palmer in one transfer, which now I'm saying it sounds pretty good. But I also don't really want to be making a goalkeeper transfer throughout the season. So by getting a cheaper goalkeeper in, they're less likely to keep clean sheets compared to someone like David Raya. Arsenal statistically have the best defence in the league. So even though we have the ability to save up to 5 transfers, you're still only getting 1 transfer per week. So the actual value of a transfer hasn't changed. Really, those 5 transfers, being able to save it up, is for people who, if they forget to log on to FPL for a couple of weeks, they log on and rather than having missed out on a load of opportunities to change the team, they've actually got 3 or 4 or 5 transfers saved up, and it gets them more engaged. So that's something that I'm still undecided at, and it's really because it would allow me some extra transfer funds for flexibility in the future. Anderson and Mykolenko, they're 4.5 million defenders. You get what you get from those budget players. Like, they might keep clean sheets. They're unlikely to keep clean sheets. Across the season, you're probably going to get between, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 clean sheets, somewhere in that range from those sort of players. They have got a little bit of attacking threat. They've not got a ton of attacking threat, but I think you get what you pay for with 4.5 million defenders, and you're going to need, a bit like Andreas, budget players in your team in order to get in the players that you really think will score you the points. So the bench is the bench, and it is cheap, and that's how I want it to be. I don't really believe in having a lot of money in your bench. I think it's a waste. I think you could much rather invest that into your starting 11. I think the amount of players in your starting 11 each week who get you 1 or 2 points, it's surprising. You look at a team, like I look at that team there, and you think, oh yeah, all my defenders are going to get clean sheets in the first game week. All my midfielders are going to assist, and all my strikers are going to score. And that just doesn't happen in FPL. You will likely get 3 or 4 players in your starting lineup that score you 1 or 2 points each game week. So for me, I'm not too bothered if my bench players score 1 or 2 points each game week, because if they come in for someone, give me an extra couple of points, that's great. It's a bit risky if you have people on your bench who are scoring you 6, 7, 8 points per week, because really they should be in your starting 11, and I'm making the wrong decision because they're on my bench scoring all those points. Now, granted, it's good to have flexibility if someone gets injured and you don't want to make a transfer, but as we've just said, you can save up to 5 transfers in a season in one go. So it does give you more flexibility to save a couple of transfers, then deal with those injuries a bit better moving forward. So my team rating on Fantasy Football Hub is 90%, and it is the joint highest that we've had all season. So for me, I think if you can get a team rating between 90, 91, 92, 93, that's absolutely fine. Like, there's so many variables that FPL can't take into account that happen on a football pitch that the data doesn't really show for. So it's nice to have a solid team and have that reassurance, but it's not the be all and end all, and there is a lot more things that can happen that can't be predicted. Otherwise, we'd all be finishing really high up in FPL, and it just doesn't happen like that. So we've said the team value is 100 million, and we're still wrestling with whether we can save money in the goalkeeper slot just to give us that extra 0.5 million to upgrade Son to Palmer in game week 2. So that remains to be seen. At the moment, we don't really have that flexibility. There is also the possibility to downgrade Son to someone like Eze and then upgrade Chris Wood to Watkins in game week 2 or 3, which is a pretty nice option as well. It just depends how everyone starts the season. It's good to have some different pathways through to react to. So the strengths, as we said, it attacks the early fixtures, which is what you want. You don't want to get left behind in game week 1 or 2 from the bulk of FPL players and look to be catching up. And we do have lots of starters in our team. I know we've maybe got players like Saka and Gordon that we're not 100% sure on, but they're so important to their teams that I am confident they're going to be playing in game week 1. The weaknesses for me is clean sheets. You know, like we said, you get what you pay for with the 4.5 million defenders, but clean sheets last season was so hard to come by that, you know, anyone can concede a goal at any point. So, you know, you're balancing the fact that you're thinking, Anderson and Mikalenko, they're not going to keep clean sheets. But then how many times did you have a premium defender last season who also didn't keep a clean sheet? So can that money be invested elsewhere? And the weak bench, which we've spoken about, that's just how I'm going to play my FPL team. So let me know what you think in the comments. Is there anyone that I've missed out? Is there any changes you'd make? You know, if you don't like it, what changes would you make to improve the team? And maybe comment your team as well. If you've got any questions, let me know. We'll get back to you in the comments. All the support is greatly appreciated. If you are new to the channel, please do like and subscribe. Check out some of our other videos as well that should be on the screen right about now. Good luck in the start of the season, and I will see you in the next one.